Alrighty, what is going on, everybody? My name is Blitzwinger, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my movie review for Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. Just got out of the movie theater literally maybe 10-15 minutes ago, and I gotta tell you guys, I was very impressed with what I saw. Once again, Marvel hits it out of the park. We're gonna go on ahead and discuss the good and the bad about this movie here for this review. Don't worry, I'm going to keep everything spoiler free. Let me know what you would rate the movie down in the comment section below. And if you haven't seen it or you are just simply looking forward to seeing it, let me know how hyped you are. In addition to that, guys, of course, don't forget, if you do enjoy the video, smash the thumbs up button, subscribe, and without further ado, let's dive on in. So first and foremost, I would like to go on ahead and start by saying that I was absolutely taken aback by how beautiful this movie was. I thought that there's so many moments in this film that are just beautiful shots, just really wonderful cinematography. And that was something that was just, I almost feel like it was something that stood out quite a bit, just because I feel like in a lot of the recent Marvel movies, there are action movies and they're Marvel movies, but I wouldn't really necessarily call them like really beautifully shot films. This was a beautifully shot film, and that was definitely a huge standout for me. In addition to that, this movie better win some type of an award for stunt work, because the choreography in this thing was absolutely splendid. I mean, honestly, it took me back to the days when I used to watch a whole bunch of Jackie Chan movies along with my grandpa. I grew up watching all the old school Jackie Chan movies, and the choreography in this really felt like a huge tip of the cap, like an homage to those Jackie Chan movies, just in the sense that it felt so Jackie Chan in terms of the style, where his choreography always feels like almost a dance and a fight together. Like it really always marries almost something that feels like more of a dance routine, but then it has the combat and flowing within it, which really I think was always a wonderful way of representing martial arts. After all, they're called martial arts. And so I feel like it is appropriate to include both the combat and then more of the art side as part of it, which I think this movie captured. The other thing that I think it borrows from those old school Jackie Chan movies is the idea of having a lot of the stunt work interact with the environment. Whereas I feel like a lot of times in many other films, stunt work feels very much like a rehearsal between the two figures or however many figures are participating in the fight, but they don't really interact with their environment very much. It's very rare that we see them interact with the environment to the same extent that we see in movies like this. So stunt work was absolutely phenomenal. So those two things were the big things that honestly surprised me. Like I was expecting to have good stunt work. That's kind of what I was going into, just because I feel like, again, if you really think about Marvel movies, there's very few fights that you could point to in terms of the actual choreography for the fights that were like, oh, wow, that was really impressive. This movie has several of those, which is wonderful. And then again, like I said, it's a beautifully shot film. But let's talk about the story. So the story, again, was a bit of a surprise for me personally, just because going into this is one of the few Marvel characters, and I got to be honest about this, that I don't know very much about. I've never read a Shang-Chi comic. I've never read a story where he was the main character in the story. And so going into this, I felt very, I guess, just kind of unaware of this world, and I wasn't really sure what to expect with it. But I really was impressed with the story being truly about a family dealing with grief. And I feel like the trailers didn't really do a great job of conveying that. But I think that's really what the story revolves around. And I think that it actually is anchored, like all of the family members that are dealing with this moment of grief are all really well played and really well represented characters. And I think that they were all pretty strong and felt well rounded as characters. So that was definitely something. Again, I'm trying to like tiptoe here to not spoil anything about who's grieving and over whom. But I think that that was a really great way to tell this origin story for this particular character. I felt like the world building that they were able to establish was quite strong all throughout as well, just in terms of it. It really felt cool to have this very immersive world to dive into, whether it be more of the influences from Chinese culture, but then equally was really cool, a lot more of the fantastical stuff that I did not expect that they would go into. I really was kind of surprised just how fantastical they went. And that's where my, I guess, little bit of a negative for this movie comes in. I think the movie suffers in the final act. I think that it suffers from the typical Marvel a lack of a compelling antagonist for this film. I think that that's a weak spot that Marvel just seems to, for whatever reason, not be able to nail down. It seems like they, aside from Thanos and Loki, they just seem to go on ahead and struggle with that particular department. We'll see, of course, with some of the upcoming projects if they could maybe steer back on course with Kang, I suppose. But this movie again lacked that. But in addition to that, the biggest problem I had as far as a knock against the film is actually the end CGI, because it just really takes you out of the movie. Going back to just how incredible the choreography and the stunt work for this particular film was, it felt so immersive. And every time, like the way they filmed the whole movie, it felt like you were right in the midst of the fight. Like it was so dynamic and fun. And then the epic finale just kind of takes you out of it because it's mostly CGI and it's very bombastic and grandiose, but it's almost like I would have rathered the story to be a little bit more grounded and closer to what we saw in the movie up until that final fight, because that really is the moment where it just felt like it was very rushed. The editing on those particular moments felt very sporadic and too quick. It's almost like they were cutting away quickly just so that you wouldn't pick up on the flaws in the CGI and things like that. Like it just, that was the only thing that sort of sucked. And unfortunately, because it's right at the end, it really is kind of one of the last notes that you experience before you leave the movie. So that is kind of a bummer. Of course, I feel like if a moment like that was a little bit earlier on, I really don't think you would probably remember it as much. But because it is the crescendo of the story, it really does suffer there. But aside from that, they do still do a very, very good job of ending the movie. So, like, the actual conclusion of the film is quite great. It's just the preceding fight, the epic finale, that is not good in my opinion. It's just very generic, and it just feels so out of place with the rest of the film. Like the rest of the film had this really great momentum building, really dynamic fights, really beautiful choreography, great shots, amazing world building, just really compelling characters. And then unfortunately, it's that final fight that kind of deters it for me a little bit. But I really did still enjoy my time with Shang-Chi. I'm looking forward to seeing all of these characters return, or I'll say some of these characters return, or all of these characters return. Who knows? I guess we shall see. But I'm looking forward to seeing what is next for Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. I definitely was is still very, very, very impressed. And I think that the good far outweighs that one specific bad moment that I was referring to. Aside from that, the movie does do a pretty good job of also tying into the rest of the MCU, whether it be throughout the film or the post-credit scenes. So there, again, Marvel is continuing to do this phenomenal job of juggling all of these different elements that they are establishing from the different universes. I was about to spoil one of the characters that was in it, from all the different universes, and then bring them in, whether it be for a little cameo or for a much more prominent role than I even thought a character would have. So I think that they do an excellent job of continuing that world building for the entire MCU. So that's great. By the way, there are 2 post-credit scenes for this particular film, so make sure you don't leave after the first one, like many people did. So make sure you check out the second post-credit scene as well. So there you guys have it. That was my review for Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comment section below. Please try to avoid spoilers just for the sake of others who have not seen the film yet. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will hopefully see you here next time. Peace out. See you later, alligators. Bye-bye, guys.